Parents of Reddit, what surprised you most when your child moved out? That's hard. One thing is how much I do miss my kids. I enjoy them not being here, even more once the last one moves out and my mill is gone, but I miss the frick out of them. I was so tired of living in one room. Master bedroom was also my office and I work from home, and I enjoy the extra room, but I hate not stopping by and joking around when I see something weird or funny online, or just grabbing something I know they like when I am at the store and just kind of dropping it by their room as I go past. All those little things are gone now. I hope they realize how much those little things really meant. The other is some of my own personal issues. I want to hear from my kids but I don't want to bother them, so I don't contact them as often as I would like. I have never been much of a just shoot the crap person, so that hurts me in communications. I see a lot of my dad in me that way. He rarely ever calls me except when there is a death in the family or something. I used to not call him when he worked because I could never remember when it was safe to call. We have one kid. I was cooking recipes for 6 every night thinking that the portion counts were misleading because we never had any leftovers. Nope. Our grocery bills are now about a third of what it used to be. Reminds me of a post I saw years ago from a mom of 3 teenage boys. Said she walked into the den one time and saw her son sitting on the couch eating a head of lettuce like an apple. Just tore off the bag and chowed down. Teenage boys eat a truly stupid amount of food. The moment our son moved out to live on his own, he became vegetarian. He never gave us any indication he was planning to or wanted to be vegetarian. I became a vegetarian within months of moving out of my mom's house. It's just easier when you are cooking for yourself, rather than when someone else is providing meals for you. And honestly, 27 years later, I still don't think my mom understands it, so it would have been a moot point then. I'm the last child to move out. I guess what surprised me was how much my dad cared for his children. Mother told me how he'd cried for days because I could have stayed longer but decided to start my life. Never really dawned on me how much he loves us. That we talk more now that he lives in his own. We seriously play games at least twice a week for 4 to 6 hours. I also realized I was the safe mom that all his friends felt comfortable with. They still called to talk or stop by for a social distanced catch up. I also realized that my water bill was only a 1/4 of what it used to be. I wasn't imagining the super long showers. This was my experience when I moved out. My relationship with my parents actually improved exponentially. Mom here. I was worried that I would be sad and heartbroken. I found out that was not the case. I was excited to see where her path took her. It's amazing to see her making her own world and dreams come true. I now have more money, so I travel a lot more. Absolutely identical to what I was going to say. I am so proud of the man my son is proving to be. It is so exciting to see all the hard work of raising a child come full circle and get to witness how it turns out. On the flip side, my mum told me the first night I moved out, she found my dad sitting downstairs reading my favorite childhood book to himself. I hilariously refused to let anyone read me that book. That was mine and dad's book up until I was about 6. Then I just read by myself. After all the emotional verbal abuse he dealt throughout my life, I was surprised he cared enough to miss me. This comment started off well. My mom said the most surprising thing to her is all the meals she used to cook for us that I hated. I now request those same meals frequently. LOL. Ha, I keep telling my daughter that she is going to miss my chicken soup one day. How many kitchen utensils you actually need to make basic meals? I'm sorry mom, I will never make fun of your crowded cupboards again. 3 of my kids, bio and spiritual, moved in together a little over a year ago. For Christmas I gave them a garlic press, a good spatula turner, a set of silicone scrapers, and tongs. We opened presents together over video chat. When the tongs came out, all 3 of them went motherfucking tongs score. Just how much I still miss living with him, even though he's been settled out of home for a few years now after yoiling a bit. Honestly, I feel like my dad for sure misses me more than my mom. He wasn't really one to say I love you or I am proud of you, but now he's always hugging me and telling me he loves me, all types of stuff. He loves you because you're his favorite roast beef. The quiet. The house is normally quiet, but this was extra. It's hard to explain, but it doesn't matter now, because after 4 months he moved back home. I've had all our 3 children move out, and a couple of things come to mind. It's an instant pay rise. God knows I love them. But even when they have been working and contributing to the household, me and my wife have still fronted most of the bills and purchases. Going from providing for a family of 5 to just me and the wife. Let's just say we eat better cuts of meat and our savings accounts have never been healthier. When they move out, they also take a step towards adulthood, which means our relationship also changes for the better. We can't take a step away from parent-child relationship to 2 people who love and respect each other, and we can talk about many issues much more as equals now. They have their own thoughtful opinions on many topics, and I love having these discussions because more often than not they'll surprise me with a different perspective and make me rethink my own opinions. The possibility to spend much more time with my wife, which wasn't a surprise, but to sort of rediscover her as the amazing individual I once fell in love with. I never lost sight of it, but the roles of mother and father took up so much of our time, so our we time had always been on the back burner. I know I haven't worded this very clearly, but I hope you get what I mean. That I would worry so much about them when I no longer see them every day. For sure, I call them often and we talk, but we don't see much of each other these days, for obvious reasons. We have 4 kids. When the first one left, I was surprised at how much the whole dynamic of the house changed. Don't know how to explain it, just a different vibe. Also, we did a pretty good job of having dinner together as a family nearly every night. So, of course, everyone had their place at the table and that never changed. For a few months after the first one moved out, sometimes I'd look to the other end of the table and my wife would be spontaneously crying as she looked at the empty spot next to her. Don't worry, we're doing better now. Lastly, this can be quite emotional for some parents because in some ways they are almost having a funeral for the child. Once that kid moves out, there can be a little mourning of the death of a child because that child is never coming back. When they visit again they are an adult. And by saying this I certainly don't want to trivialize the trauma folks experience at the actual death of a child. This isn't nearly as hard, not even in the same universe of difficulty. How much we miss our daily interactions, even when they were just 15 minutes long. Before our oldest children moved out, 2 to go, they were hardly home. Between college, study groups, working and social activities, on most days we'd see them just before bed and just after they woke up. Now that they're out on their own, we really miss even those daily check-ins. We still call and text a lot, but obviously it isn't the same. I get that your children aren't given to you, they're loaned to you. But dang if it doesn't feel like a part of you has been amputated. Answering on their behalf just a joke, they now have to take out the trash and do grocery shopping themselves. Plus they have to get off their seats to get a cup of water. I was the youngest of 3 and moved out with my sister. My mom kept going on about how excited she was to be free. 2 months and she adopted a cat that looked exactly like mine. I still call her once a week to make sure she isn't too lonely. How quickly they pick things up. I don't mean that literally. I think I thought my daughter would be a potato for much longer than she was. A potato and happy cake day. I never realized how much my parents relied on my rent. Every month I have to come up with a different excuse so they'll still take it. This doesn't seem right. There is a lot of expenses that come with starting a life as a young adult. Unless your parents are disabled or elderly, they are doing you a disservice by not allowing you to save for your own future. You will have time to take care of them later. When I moved out, I moved countries too, so I was gone. I got a pitiful phone call from my parents. They begged me to return. My dad said he needed someone to talk to. Basically he wanted his free therapist back and needed someone to give him back massages. He historically had back problems and my mom is crap at massaging sore muscles without leaving bruises. My mom begged me to come back and take over parenting, cooking and cleaning again, saying that she was too old. It made me feel very used. I hadn't realized how much I had been doing for them. It was especially manipulative when my mom put my baby sister on and she cried and asked why I didn't love her anymore and told me about how my mom wasn't taking care of her and just ignored her needs. She was 4. None of that is your responsibility or your fault. Stay strong and don't let that negativity influence you. The crushing pain. Never for a minute did I expect it. Watched him drive away with his friend, car all packed up to move into an apartment together, and burst into tears. Went up to his room to vacuum and sob. Grieved for 2 weeks. He moved across town. Then as the years went by, he came back, moved back out, came back again, moved back out again. The last time he moved, he went 2,000 miles away, or 3-hour plane ride. I'll never get over it. We're damned happy for him to be living a full life on his own terms, but had no idea it wouldn't include us in any way. I just never saw that future in my little crystal ball. We were always supportive. Do your own thing. Whatever it is, we'll support your choices, and still feel that way. But I had no idea what the physical pain of him being out of our daily lives would be. What can I say? He's a sparkler, and our lives are simply dull without him. My mum got upset when I moved 5 hours away to Los Angeles for college. Then really upset when I moved to Australia. I still spoke to her every day. LOL, she passed away a couple years ago and I live in the UK now. I assume she's in heaven stomping her foot at me for moving far away again. That he never called his mother for 3 weeks. She was crushed. She loves her babies even at age 22. We still have 3 at home, thank goodness. Amusingly, my father specifically told me not to call my mother the first 3 weeks I was away at school. It was a good move. She got over the worrying phase. I felt some independence and then had a nice talk with my mum. My best friend found half of their dishes hidden in their son's closet. They were dirty and disgusting. They knew dishes were going missing and had asked him dozens of times if he had them, but he always denied it. He wasn't mean or rotten, just lazy and goofy. OMG, that's my nephew. That her boyfriend continued to live here. When my daughter went back to college, her boyfriend had already been staying here for a few months. His dad had died and his mom had to move into a much smaller place, so he moved in with us. When my daughter went back to her dorm, he stayed and continued to commute to his college. It was temporary and he's a good guy, so it wasn't too bad, just unexpected. My parents have reported most of the same: sad, quiet, lonely, cheaper food bill, etc. But once my brother moved back in for a while in his early 20s and my mom said she missed being able to go downstairs and get coffee in the morning without putting clothes on. All the stuff he had, I don't know where he got thousands of dollars worth of cameras, tablets, laptops, and other expensive things. He never had a traditional employer. When we saw all the stuff, we thought he got into drugs or stealing or something. My dad thought the same thing about me. How similar it feels to starting your life over after a breakup or graduating from college, and then the immense sadness you feel when they ask to move back in because the $150,000 liberal arts degree you bought them won't let them actually make a living. Nowadays I feel like IT and medical fields are the only college degrees with a good ROI. Any other degree you better either be getting for free or at severely discounted prices. My parents begged me to move home because they wanted to have a full house again. When COVID hit, they got their wish. They seem to forget their kids and children anymore and that we don't have to ask permission to come and go or to spend time somewhere that isn't home. I mean, it is COVID. It's respectful to at least have a conversation about what everyone is comfortable with. I'm in my 20s and live at home. Sometimes I need to social distance, sometimes I can stay over at my boyfriend's. I don't want to put any of my family members through COVID nor make them uncomfortable in their own house. Bless all the people here that actually care about their kids. I've tried so hard to have any kind of closeness with my parents even after all the abuse. I feel just as alone now as I did then, and it sucks. I don't think they acted the way they did because they don't love me. I think maybe they are just incapable because they seem to have really bad mental health issues. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to help them, but I am only one person and I couldn't take it anymore. Please, if you can do so safely, hug your kids or parents and tell them you love them. These bonds are not replaceable. I can't begin to imagine what you've gone through. I know it's easy to say and hard to do, but stay strong. It isn't your responsibility to help them, and I'm sure they love you, even if they find it hard to show it. I'm 21 and moved out a little over a year ago. Reading this thread has freaking punched me in the gut. I remember my mom telling me about how my dad said he missed me, but I can't imagine what that man was feeling. I wasn't super close with my mom, but I spent my entire life doing everything with my dad. He was my best friend until I was old enough to make different friends. I should really go home and visit more often. I'm the child in this case. My mum was surprised by how domesticated I was right off the bat. To be fair, the crippling depression and hospital admission prior to moving out did make my mum wonder if I would cope. Mostly I have managed well. She still supports me with managing finances because of my mental health and dyscalculia, but this month will be 5 years since I last officially lived with her, not including the fact that she was my lockdown support this last year and I was spending 3 days at a time with her. We both live alone, so it was allowed. And 15 years since I first moved out. Till about dyscalculia. It makes sense that it exists, but I have never really heard about it. How much I missed them. I was a single parent of 3 boys and have a small social circle intentionally. It was hard to do, but when we get together now I am continually amazed at how they've turned into intelligent, caring and moral human beings. I recently visited my oldest too with the intention to purchase a car in his area and was so much more excited about seeing them than getting the car. The oldest is purchasing a house in the next 2 years and asked if I wanted to live with him. I agreed on the condition that I have a mother-in-law suite to ensure his privacy since he is single. I think they worry about me because I am so independent and live my life alone. My mom told me she didn't know I can cook. I never cooked at home cause granddad would always complain about my cooking. He doesn't like modern cooking, and I found it annoying, so I never cooked when someone was around. When they came to visit I made STHG every time and they were so surprised and still are every time. Echoing many others, the lonely quiet. I spent so much of my life immersed in my kids that when they moved out, I was lost. I am still lost, but getting a little better at it. COVID hit hard at a time when I really could have used getting out and building something new in my life. How seldom he initiates communication with us. I'd either thought he'd have a lot more questions about things, but I guess he learned how to live his life on his own. Okay, who's cutting up onions? He's 6, so the fact that he moved out was a huge shocker. He came back in about 15 minutes for a snack and to watch TV and cuddle. That part wasn't surprising. Not in the least. The electrical tape used to depress the plungers on the alarm of the back door, so they could come and go without alarm beeping when door opened. I remember my mom being surprised at how many dishes my dad left out. She had always assumed that it was me. I'm very good about that. It's one thing that frustrates me about my wife. Dishes everywhere. I cried for an entire year. 2020, when my 19-year-old son moved away. I still have 3 children at home. I'm not even an empty nester, so I'm thinking of what I need to do not to fall apart when they all move away. My youngest is 7. All I know is I completely underestimated how much I'd miss him and thought the day was far more into the future that I wouldn't see him daily. It took me a stupid amount of time to adjust to setting the table to 5 instead of 6. To adjust our menu to not account for his favorite meals that our other 3 children don't care for. Just too many little details of daily life with him just gone. I miss our daily mellow conversations about the world and various topics and finding out more about him. He visits, but I miss him all of the time. Ugh. A large amount of pride tinged with sadness when she moved out. She has stayed with friends before, but recently she and her boyfriend got their first apartment together. I am so proud of her that she is all grown up with her own apartment, but a little sad too because it will never be the 3 of us again. But her dad and I have been enjoying some kid-free time just like before she was born, so that is a lot of fun. It is kind of a big emotional soup, but overall a very positive one. How much my kids truly like and love me. They keep in contact all the time and find any excuse to come over and hang out with me. I figured they would just go on their own lives and leave me behind. Guess I did a good job. that I could get naughty whenever I wanted, haha. And also the laundry and dishes, my god, those pesky kids had some washing to be done. My mom told me, only child, that the best time in her life was when we lived together after she divorced my abusive stepdad. It was really bittersweet. I guess she felt like she'd kind of squandered my childhood time until I was nearly old enough to move out, and she just never imagined I actually would be gone one day. Or maybe that she thought the toxic situation would resolve itself and then our lives would start as mother and daughter. How the kitchen remained clean, the quiet, and especially how the complaints went down about me walking around in my underwear. I mean, covered in pants. Yet, not going to bother while working from home. Not a parent, but talking to my recently, she says she gets bored after 30 years of having kids in the house. She also says it's too quiet. How the temperature miraculously stayed the same, 24/7. How far I could make groceries stretch. How filthy, son, the bedroom is. How eerily quiet it was. How much room I had in that house. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.